welcome back, everyone. Mr. Kelvin, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, in that case, we shall resume our webinar with you, after which, just to remind everybody, is a Q&A session. So, Mr. Kelvin, you may proceed.
Sam, I am ready. Wait, page. All right.
All right.
Cool. So everyone had their tea, coffee, hopefully awake from my talking for so long. I didn't even know I can talk so long. The next one is the stability study, and this pretty much sums up and concludes on the stability stuff. So what you should be looking out for is temperature, humidity, and time. And these are the variables that you will usually contract to a third-party lab. I can tell you, majority of factories don't have this facility. The only reason why I can say this with high degree of confidence is to do the stability study, you need to check things like heavy metals and microbes. And most factories don't have these two testing things on premise. So you probably need it to be sent to a third party, it could be SGS, MyCO2, whoever. I think it works out to be about 1,000 ringgit a month. 3 months representing 2 years and stuff like that. You can ask them on what our variables mean for what. They need your product to be in the finished form packaging because that's how it will be stored. So do that, worth the money, so you understand your product a lot better. So we are on to the part on marketing and sales. And if we have a bit more time, I will go into some of the strategies Verdi employs into ranking for Google and Facebook, and how we get ourselves always searched for certain type of keywords. So some of you are here for that. So why is important? Well, you want to figure out what people are looking for. Is it in trend? Or are you looking to spend more marketing dollars to get it in trend? And then when you spend that money, you want to see that translated back into your products or back into a conversation people are having. So a great way to look at this is actually using Google Trends and Google Keywords. If you're not familiar with that, you can let me know, or I can show it to you in a bit after this. Then you can look at the SEO keyword density spread. This is one thing which I find very, very interesting, and it's the amount of work put into SEO. We're talking about when you search on Google for certain products and objects and whatever. It's really poorly done, which means it's a great opportunity for you to capitalize on businesses which have not put effort into this area. A lot of people throw the marketing dollars into it, the Google ads and all that, but they don't put any effort into organically growing their own websites and stuff, which means that when you do it, you're more than likely to rank. And using Google, you can figure out related questions and keywords. So I will share with you my screen, and you can have a look at some of an approach to how to look at stuff. So this is, can you see my screen now? Yeah, you can see the screen, right? So it's this is answer the public. It's a great way to phrase questions, right? And for example, let's look at, I was just testing out collagen, for example. And I'll search up the questions that people probably were looking for. And actually even gives you ideas on what people expect in the collagen. So if you see here, I think just now, there's one on vitamin C. Oh, that's not the one there. Collagen with peptides, vitamin C. So you can see here, this is what a lot of people are looking for. Collagen with hydroloric acid is another one, right? So these are things that you might want to consider adding to your collagen because it's the market movement, right? So you can see there's a lot of different ways to look at your product. With retinol, this is interesting. I'm using retinols in liquid form. Anyway, separate topic. So you can see here, these are the combinations which are moving around on the market now. And if I go to here, let's look at a keyword planner. So this is a great way to figure out the amount of traffic people are generating for this type of keywords. And it tells you other ways it's written and related keywords as well. Can see my screen, right? You can see my screen here. So the only way to get to this is you have to have a Google advertising account. Don't really need to spend money, just need to do the subscription and stuff. And you can see here, look, this is in Malaysia in English, about 1,000 of the searches on frozen collagen. Marine collagen is 590, but collagen peptides is 1,600. I suspect this type of traffic is a bit mixed with Singapore traffic, even though it's written here as Malaysia, because we don't really use that word a lot. And then you can go down here, it says Collagen C, and then you can see other brands which have been pushing well in terms of how much search traffic is there. So if you do your market trend research through this, you can figure out whether there is a high demand roughly on this product. For example, vegan collagen used to be a very hot topic. It's only around about 100 of its searches online every month. Not that stellar and spectacular, right? So this is a way to look out for. You can see Kinohimitsu used to be really high, but it's really dropped down there, right? 5,000 over dropping down 3,006. There are people still looking for Kinohimitsu collagen. There you go. So using Google Discovery is a great way to do it. And you can figure out what other stuff you can add in and have a rough idea of what the market is doing. Another way is you can look at the Quest 3 system, which is for registered MAL products only, not for foods. So you can think about that for a bit. This is the keyword tracking, probably not the content today, because this is a whole nother topic, which we have to spend a lot of time on. Let me go back to the stop screen share here. Where are we here? Let's zoom share screen thing. Okay. Guys, good. Here. Keep going. Keep going. Okay. So then you can look for a keywords focus, which is what I just showed you just now. And then by creating the website to have the title, the link, the headers containing the same keywords, you can rank for those words. Common website builders, Shopify or WordPress. I think one big one, the reason why I want to cover this here is the digital presence of your product now is more significant than ever, because most sales now that passed through the pandemic was done online. And that's without a doubt, because our retail really took a hit. People couldn't visit those places to buy this stuff. So everything needed to be pushed online. So you need to really have that presence built there. And if you're starting out with a very small budget, you would need to figure it out on your own, right? You need to think of a great way to do it yourself. And Shopify is a great way to do it. But then you still need to focus on those keywords to create those keywords, go through the Google Trends and then see those keywords, see the traffic, and create content relevant to those keywords and continuously create content. I think that's a totally different topic. I'm doing SEO stuff. You can probably search about it online. You can search about it through Furly. We have a lot of content about that as well. And there's one big one here I'm going to talk about. It's actually images versus text. And images are great. They do very well on Instagram and Facebook. But there's one thing they don't do well on. It's because it's an image. It does not give you any ranking for Google. Google doesn't really pick it up much. So when you post an image, you would need to probably repost onto your blog or your website in a text format. So that effort that you put in on the image is translated into some type of scoring for SEO, especially if it's highly relevant content. So definitely something to look at in terms of how to structure your content from center point out, be it your WordPress page or your company HQ page, to Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot. So even LinkedIn, if it's a business related thing. So you really need to think about how you're going to do that and how you're going to approach it, which is why doing your own brand, or even actually sometimes selling other people's brands. You'll be doing this as well. It's not so easy and clear cut as what it was before. So here are some considerations, which even for myself, I spend the majority of my time doing marketing. The rest of my staff and my team, they just do sales and customer support. Fortunate for me. Things like design, copywriting. Is it digital? Is it conventional? Is it both? If it's both, you have to have it in sync. So then your offline guys see the online guys see the offline guys. If not, you're going to get complaints because your retailers are going to find out that you're running a discount online and the retailers are not getting the discount. And you're going to have the next conversation is your margins are too big. I need to renegotiate your margins and stuff like that. And that is a great conversation to have, especially when you want to start to reduce margin with the retailers. The frequency of your posting, weekly, daily. This is all your commitment to your own product and your own brand. I think blindly doing content and blindly creating stuff without a true reason is a real waste of time. You put so much effort into creating the content, but you're not seeing the results. Either you're not pushing the content out, you're not having people view it because you're not using money, or you're not resharing the content into the relevant groups. And I'll give an example about this. The reason why we do Facebook Live at Furley on the Furley page is because we spend quite a bit of money on advertising through Facebook and Google. And when people are looking for a factory, they will always do a small amount of due diligence into the company itself. So even though we see our views are hovering about, I think, 300 to 500 in a week, which is relatively very low, we realized by doing live, the first word or first two words that customers give to us when they want to do business with us is, I saw your live, I saw you. I feel confident that your factory is legitimate, and I know there's a person behind it. And that's the only reason why we do the live. Whether the content is relevant to them or not, or in-depth enough or not, that's a separate story. We do the content so we rank on Google and YouTube. So we spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes to get the content to rank. So we benefit across the board when we do this type of content coming out. That's why we do the live. Whereas other people, when they do live, it could be their key sales avenue channel. It could be the way they engage with their audience. It's really up to you on how you want to use it. But definitely something that we will continuously do, because that builds and brings legitimacy to us in the digital space, even though we got the premise, even though we have been in business for so many years. But a lot of new customers like you don't know us, right? So we need to be able to build that confidence into you, so you'll find us to build your projects. So that's something you have to think about. It's a lot. It really is a lot. You know, I myself continuously doing it. It's really a lot of work. There are some words that we're going to come across here: acquisition costs, cost per click, conversion costs, and website. The conversion costs are only as good as how well you set your website up. The reason why I say this is the conversions will measure what you want to measure. Could it be a submission of the form? For us, it's submission of forms. When people submit a contact request, that is a conversion for us. We don't really look at the cost per click because we're not too interested in the volume of traffic coming in. We want to pay for people that convert on our forms, whereas other people maybe just want to look at how big their volume of traffic coming in, and of that they're going to convert 2 to 3%. I think even when you're using your e-commerce platform or other platforms doing sales, they also have similar metrics in terms of how much it costs per person to get someone to buy your product, for example. And don't be surprised, the conversion cost can be astronomically expensive. It can be 20 ringgit, it can be 13 ringgit. I think, you guys might have attended so many of those social media classes and whatever it is. When you do it, you realize it's a bit different in terms of the cost involved. And the reason being is, as more people start to sell and command the attention of customers online, that pool is limited, but the brands coming in are starting to grow up. There's a lot coming in, and everyone starts to pay more to see the eyeballs on that conversion cost. So sometimes if your product doesn't have enough margin, you'll be looking at a different methodology in advertising. It could be just a volume-based game, as opposed to looking at very direct conversion costs, which tend to cost a little bit more. And the next one is actually customer service. And this is actually one of the banes to online digital presence. And I think ever more than ever now, the speed, the time of having these conversations with customers is something that is really taken for granted. The problem being now is it's almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you run campaigns to sell products and whatever, it is ridiculous. You could be up 2 o'clock in the morning to talk to a customer, and of course, by all means, you could be converting that customer, but do you have the resources, and do you have a plan on how to approach this is the next question you want to consider, because it's as good as someone else doing it, in my opinion. You could say a person at 2 o'clock in the morning is probably not my customer. Well, it's really hard to say now in the era of digital marketing. That guy at 2 o'clock in the morning could be running his social media campaign and preparing for the next day. And he could definitely be one of the biggest customers on market because he is hustling at that level. So are you going to meet to that hustle? I don't know. It's up to you. But it's really something that even for us, we struggle to service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can't do it Saturday to Sunday because we are essentially still a factory. where we work 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 10 to 6 type of hours, right? And to have that move across, how do you do it? Well, there's a few ways. You could have a customer relationship management software where you can follow up. And the assumption is if a person is genuine, they'll leave their contact number and email. And when you message them or call them, they'll be more than happy to receive that. So how, who, when, and what, and where. It pretty much where is everywhere because it's digital, but it's pretty much when and how and who. Who's going to do it, what time and when, and how they're going to do it. Is it done through Messenger? Is it done through WhatsApp? You know, what is the way you're going to reach and communicate with your customers? And the reasons why people pick Messenger as opposed to WhatsApp at this point in time, because Messenger is centralized at this point in time. WhatsApp is very number orientated, so your number sticks to something. So when they click on the number, it only receives in that one number, right? So for us, we use Messenger and Telegram. We'll be consolidating this very soon. So it's multi-platform, but it costs money. But something for you to consider there for marketing. So again, I'm going to talk about some marketing principles here. Again, I told you, do the SWOT analysis, definitely identify the customer needs. And I think now again, I'm telling you, is to react with the competition and to see what your competition is doing, do it and do it better. Work with people who are able to accommodate your requests. I think expecting it to be done tomorrow from a factory is almost impossible and foolish. 2 reasons. One reason is if the factory is so free, it means there's something wrong with their business. And the second is there's a lot of things that needs to be arranged in terms of raw material and planning. Be able to plan so fast, I highly doubt it because a lot of the raw materials imported from China, Europe, and US. Malaysia don't really make much of the raw materials. So there is still a lag time factor there that you have to, come about to thinking about. Use the 4 Ps. This is the basic stuff: price, promotion, and place. And I think being able to keep to your same branding message, but have that flexibility to change is something that you need to be very relatable to. And even for us as contract packing, things are no longer static. Things move so fast. It's crazy, and we need to be able to move at that speed in terms of our formulations, in terms of the unique selling points for those base formulations, because we don't want our customers to keep waiting for us to do the R&D, create the formulas, check the stability, and then sell it on. I think it's not in our time and era. It doesn't work that way anymore. So we have to be ready. Similar to you guys trying to do your own OEM projects and your own products. Is it relevant? It's probably a very good question. And how relevant is it for? So we'll go into things called the product life cycle, which maybe you guys have heard about. It's usually governed for around 2 years plus. And I'll show it to you in a bit. One more thing is your sales channels, the distribution points, retail, pharmacies. Who's going to do it? Are you going to do it? Do you have your own logistics? Who's going to handle all the stock? And I think one big one a lot of people struggle with, especially in the beginning, is the stock management. It can get so messy, so you don't even know what is sold and what is collected. So it's very important in the beginning to set up some type of paper trail or some type of paper flow. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be some pieces of paper, but make sure you have a system in place, because what you don't want is you don't want to be able to figure out, what has sold, what has not sold, what's been returned, which outlet is giving you problems. Is it a continuous problem? Is it the outlet or is it the customer? So things like that you have to be able to answer yourself. If not, you're going to lose money. So the next one is actually restocking. Who's going to do the restocking for you on the shelves if you're on retail? If you're doing online, yeah, it's just a warehouse, right? But if you're at the retail level, who's going to restock your product? Who's going to rearrange it? Who's going to push the product to the front? Do you have your merchandising point? So things like that you have to consider. A big one also is complaints. How do you handle the complaints? Do you have some questions or FAQs ready to handle complaints from customers? And you'll be amazed at the type of complaints that come about. It could be the logistics is slow. I didn't receive it on the next day, which was what was sent. I thought it was going to arrive the next day. It didn't arrive. So things like that you have to be prepared and ready to answer. How are you going to handle your refunds? Do you have a refund policy? And a very big one a lot of people get caught in is consignment. So what's consignment? Consignment is pretty much you list your product onto the shelf but the retailer doesn't pay you until it's sold. So you'll be relying on the retailer giving you how much sales they've done that month and how much stock is on the shelf before they make payment. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for a few reasons. You need to be able to count that stock regularly, and that's usually done through your merchandiser. So you go to the outlet and try to count how many. You imagine 600 outlets from the pharmacy, stuff like that. It's a nightmare. You really got to be really ready to do that. And when they make payment to you, more than likely 30 days, 90 days before the first product is, upon the first product sold, they pay you around that time later. So you need quite a bit of cash to move if you're doing this method on consignment. Even then, if they do an outright buy, but with a return policy, similar to consignment, not so bad. They pay you for the stock, and then whatever's returned, they will expect credit notes and stuff. One trick is when you're handling retailers, they're going to ask you for A&P budget and all that. You just give them credit in stock, and instead of giving money, which is what majority of people would do. So they ask them to convert that stock into credit, into cash for them to use their promotion and whatnot. And usually when your brand is semi-decent, they will more than likely accept, right, as opposed to just cash upfront payment. And again, as I spoke to you before, the agreements and stuff usually only come about later. It will only apply early on if you've got an exclusive sole distributor export-wise, or for a district. You struck a conversation with someone you like, and they said they're willing to invest X amount of money into stock, but they want you to give them protection for Negeri Sembilan or Selangor or whatever. So that would be a situation where you would use an agreement to come about to doing that. Okay, next one here. So a lot of people ask, and this applies to people with existing products, right? Reformulate. Reformulations, for me personally, I believe it's the last option, unless you're saying improvement of formula, which is you're coming up with a new formula which is improved, and maybe the price is around the same, if not slightly cheaper or slightly more expensive, but the unique selling point angle is present, and there's a clear distinguishment between this product and the previous product. I wouldn't say reformulating as a solution to fix a problem is the first area to go in. The reason being is a lot of times when your product is sold already, whatever problems you feel is a problem, or the quirky smell, the quirky color, might have already became the unique selling point of the product. So the expectation on the customer might not be met any longer. So you really need to know what you're doing when you're doing this. And I've seen a lot of times when people started to reformulate or even try to pull that re-improvement, they screw up massively and they lose a ton of money. So this is a very delicate and sensitive area where you need to navigate and not take this for granted, because it really can screw you up really badly. Take it as a last resort and make sure you do enough surveys to really understand if you're going to do the reformulation, it really has to hit that soft, sweet spot with your customers, right? Try to look at different issues and try to address it differently. It could be a packaging thing, more than likely packaging if it's not product stability issues. So this is the product life cycle. This one doesn't, in general, it's kind of like this, right? In the beginning, you have the introduction, you spend money to grow it. And then when you push it, you got the growth. So a lot of times you can jump the introduction phase by running similar products of similar unique selling points, especially when the big brands are pushing it. And one big area where you can look at is actually MLM. MLM pushes a lot of new age products because the way they educate is a bit different and it moves fast through education. It's not throwing the big marketing bucks at it. It's using people to re-educate people. So that's one area there that you can look at to ride that wave before you reach maturity and then decline. You can extend decline by doing product improvements. And that would extend the product life cycle in itself. It could be a packaging improvement. It can be a USP improvement. It could be a formulation improvement in terms of from a synthetic product going to all natural, or it could be hypoallergenics for sensitive skin, stuff like that. Things to look out for there, or taste or beverage or fragrance difference, right? So you can look at those different things. In general, usually, when we're looking at MLM customers, it's around a 2-year life cycle. Other customers, we look around 3 to 4 for traditional retail. But that also depends how aggressive the marketing is in terms of pushing the product to reach that growth phase. You can find these online. I think this one's from this Harvard's one. So For us, it's information overload. So when you're working with a factory, trying to find a factory which has a CRM piece of software which you can access, because one big thing that we've realized is, especially for custom projects or even their formulations, there could be 5 to 10 quotations per customer because of the different reiterations and 5 to 10 different samples coming out. And if there's no way to track it yourself, what more the company, what more the customer being confused, right? This in itself, I highly recommend you look for companies which have engaged in certain types of software. So even for us as a company, it's easy for us to go back and check what's gone wrong or where we can improve on, or what is the information given from you to us. And for a customer to be able to go to a center point and see, oh, I have so many samples in hand, I've given this feedback, and this is what I'm expecting the customer to respond, expecting the factory to respond to us about. So try to have some type of documentation if they don't have it, frame it up, because there's so many things to do, and this is just one of the so many tasks. So you really need to get yourself into that paperwork system and have a system in place to manage all that information. Yeah, this one doesn't matter for us. So a big question you ask yourself, and I think is relevant, is how do we keep innovating, and how do you as a brand yourself keep looking at new products coming out and having your feelers around and really understanding what's going on? And this is a really tough one to do. So in Furley, we build a culture where we always allow people to speak, and we're always looking at the market, what's the market moving about, and looking at the little things that are happening, observing the small players. Small players tend to spend a lot of times, which are you guys, looking at little niches and little special niches available. I think at one point vegan protein was big, pea protein was big, and we have been working with these pea protein companies for quite a while. And those are the little niches where, when the market reaches critical volume, it becomes mass market, then we are ready to go as well. So working with the small customers, working into big customers, and moving this into a mass market product is where we always look out for. And a curious culture, there is no wrong answers, right? Market forces can be looked at. We have an exclusive system which harvests data from Ministry of Health. So we look at the products registered and which direction a lot of products are moving into, be it into hypertension, sleep, stuff like that. We can tell based on the type of raw materials and products that are being registered. And the delivery methods, this is pretty much like, is it in powder, liquid, in sachet, and stuff like that. It's, it's a lot to take in, and it's like a very big tangent from what you might be selling now. But it's important to always have your hand on the pulse of what people are selling, and whether you should react to it, whether you join them, or how do you make your product better, and talk about why your product is in this form as opposed to powder or as opposed to liquid, and addressing those questions even before your customer is asking you these questions, right? So it's something really to take on. So I don't need to know. So I'll give you an example here, and we're coming up to the wrap up of what I've discussed today, and I think it's going to end on this type of note, on an example. So Spray 8 is our wound care product, and we have realized a lot of people have used our wound care product for eczema therapy, acne therapy, and scar therapy. So we came up with a range of therapy so-called products, but we realized to have certain claims, I think acne and scar is okay, but eczema, we can't have this claim because this claim is usually reserved for OTC products. But we realized if we moved into the what is it called? If we move into the area of eczema, we need to be able to figure out how to get this approved, or is there a better way? And I think maybe we can go into the medical device area for these type of claims. So when you have these plans in mind, then you know what factories you need to look out for and what licenses you need, because a lot of times you need to approach the factories and you need to find the factories which are related to what the product you want to do and what are the claims that you want to achieve. And this is one of the things coming out here. 2 of these are cosmetic. One of this might be an OTC or might become a medical device class A, which is where we're going towards. So we have a household range, which is already sold now at our retail, but more for medium to low end. And this was the early concept of it. It's really different from what it is now. but it was to lay it out and have it placed on the shelf and to see how it looked like on the shelf amongst everyone else, and to create that distinguishing factor there, and at the right price point. And the reason why we wanted this right price point, because we realized that the mass market had no access to these type of products with this range in terms of natural and organic household range at a 20 ringgit mark in terms of mass market. That means we're looking at a product hopefully capped at maximum 10, probably around 8 in terms of total cost, and that factors in all the other margins. And we're looking at a slightly more competitive product in terms of FMCG, so that margin is no longer at 50, we're looking around about 35% to retail, which is why you have to put a bit of effort and planning into whatever you want to sell, even before you place your order with the factory and to find that factory. So I've spoken enough now, my throat's really dry. So Nora, are you still around? Or hello?
I'm here.
Hi, yeah. So I think I finished. We can move on to the Q&A.
Okay, yes, definitely. We actually have a question in the chat. I'll just read it out to you, but I think it's you can see it, yeah? It's from a Miss Shahira Adnan, whereby she asks, nowadays, Shopee and Lazada are the online platforms that mostly people love. And nowadays, there are a lot more e-commerce platforms such as Mudah, Presto, Pibli, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, and Easy Buy. As a business owner with products, how many platforms do you think we have to register to market our products?
That's actually a very, very good question, in the sense of I had this conversation with my team as well, I think 2-3 months ago. For me, if you have the time, just register all of them. And for one reason is, you see, look at Shopee now. They're trying to build traffic. And if you're in shopping mall and you're spending the advertising bucks, they're going to match the advertising dollars spent. So why not list it there? And there's only more to gain than to lose, in that sense. And the second thing is, when Google does the indexing on these websites, at least you know when they search for your product and your brand with the right type of messaging that you're coming out with each of these platforms and what you're selling, you're very, very likely and more than likely to be more highly ranked or outranking other people, because you're on so many different platforms. You have to remember that in Google's perspective, when you look at Mudah or Lazada or Shopee, they recognize these websites as being much more high quality in terms of rank, or they call it the page rank, in reference to your product, as opposed to your own website before you have built that rank image up. So I think just list it. There are platforms out there that can help you consolidate all these listings. So one list goes to everywhere else, but not all to all these other platforms. Like PB and Pret, I haven't heard of those, but Mudah and Easy Buy, Lazada and Shopee, yes. So I know they do exist. So keep an eye out from there. I think it's worth the money, 500 ringgit or 600 ringgit, and it integrates with your own online e-store as well. So definitely do that. I would recommend.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Shahira. I hope that answers your question. Is there any other question from any of our participants here? If not, I actually received one question, so I'll just read it out to you. There's somebody wants to know whether actually Furly Bio Extracts is able to help produce a basic skincare set. What they want to know is, firstly, how long is the process that is from discussion to production? Secondly, the estimated budget, and thirdly, the minimum order quantity.
Good question, and a very timely question, because we are running, let me see here. Good question, because we realized that a lot of the new competition on the market in terms of OEM, they're doing around about small bundle sets for OEM products. So for Furly's context, I can tell you that we do have a bundle coming out soon for quite custom work. And there's a few categories in terms of what you can get, natural or synthetic, and a few different price points. It roughly works out to be like this. I think it's 5,000 ringgit, 100 sets of 3 different products in each set. One of the set, you have a conditioner, a cleanser, moisturizer, and a toner. So you can definitely have that there. I think in terms of timeline, around about 1 month to complete everything in terms of your selection of ingredients, the sampling step to get the product right in terms of the smell and the texture based on the basis that we have. And by the time you reach production around about the second month to the third month, that would depend as well on your, what's it called? Would depend as well on your design. Yeah, because the design part tends to take quite a bit of time for people. So I hope that answers that one there, right?
Okay, thank you very much. We do have another question, Mr. Kelvin, and that will be from Encik Zulfikar Aziz, who's asking on what is a reasonable net profit we are looking at for local herb extracts products.
I need a bit of clarification on this question. Do you mean you're trading the herb extract or a finished product in capsule form? I need two different margins for those two different things.
Yes, Mr. Kelvin, I'm looking at a small production, own product, own lab.
Okay.
Worker direct, yeah, thanks.
So it's in capsule form, or is it the raw material you want to sell?
Not decided. What is your suggestion? Something which, low investment, but a lot of own effort.
Oh, a lot of own effort. Okay. So if you have your own herbs, selling is one. There's two things to think about. First is, okay, you can try to trade the herb. It's doable, depending on the dosage and how much people need to use it on in products is one. The second is you need to have a unique, what's the uniqueness of your extract that you want to sell? Because the third problem is, let's say I want to place an order for 100 kilos or 20 kilos because a lot, it's growing, right? You need to be able to meet that volume. So if you are not able to meet that volume because it's such a big endeavor for yourself, perhaps you're looking to do your own product using your own extract. So those are two considerations you have to come about. If you're doing your own product, of course, you're not going to use much of your extract in terms to sell it. And you'll be looking at a bigger spread of margin at the bottom line. But in the top line, if you're trading the extract, extracts tend to have phenomenal numbers in terms of profit margin. But it depends on the extract. Is the extract unique? For example, if you're selling Tonka Ali, the price is fixed. You can't really get away from it because Biotropics has dominated the Tonka Ali market. And you know that. So there's no point to, unless your extraction process is special or something, it's really cheap compared to them, then you can command that margin. If not, you really got to reconsider on what's your unique angle of selling the extract. Maybe you got a special piece of research or a patented thing that's going on. Fine. Then you can command your few 1000% margins on the extract. If not, it might be a few 100% only. You have to remember, a few 100% sounds really good, but you're at the top line, you're not at the bottom line. Top line means that it's raw material pricing. Bottom line means that you're selling the product at 50 ringgit per piece. Of that, maybe you only use 1% to 2% of your extract, which makes the cost phenomenally much higher.
So for the bottom range, what is a reasonable profit like?
As a complete product, or just the extract on its own?
I'm looking more like trying to add a bit of value on our local products. Cocoa powder, pepper,
I see.
Oil, things like that.
See, the things that you have mentioned are actually commoditized products. They're not what we call.
They're not consumer direct.
Yeah, they have set price points already. You know what I mean? So you can't. Let's say, for example, you go for pepper. Pepper price can only go so far in the sense of moving it up the value chain. Perhaps you can look at increasing it by 50 cents maximum for a value-added proposition, because the price is already set in that fashion. If you get what I'm trying to get at, it has to be really truly unique for it to really bust in a new price category for the product itself, and it has to be a really big pain point from why people want to pay the extra for pepper. For example, if you're looking for a much bigger spread of margin, it would be, of course, the cosmetics, of course, the health food parts, where there is much growth in a very broad spectrum of price points.
Okay, thank you.
We can have more discussion. I think I need to really understand what it is you're trying to sell. Yeah, then I can probably help you out a bit more.
Thanks, Kelvin.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any more questions from anyone here? All right, I think if there are none, I think we can wrap up this Q&A session. which means the next thing on the agenda is the group photo. So therefore, I'd like to request those, everybody, if possible, to switch on your cameras or videos. Thank you all. I'll wait a few minutes, oh, sorry, a few seconds for this. Thank you, everybody. And those who are camera shy, it's all right. So I'll get my team to stand by. So everybody with your best smiles. 1, 2, smile. We're gonna take another one. 1, 2. All right, and a last one. 1, 2, smile. All right, thank you everybody very much. And Mr. Kelvin, once again, as I mentioned, thank you very much for your talk. We hope that everybody's gotten all the information and insights and tips from you, valuable information there. And to everybody who's joined us today, thank you very much. I think that wraps up everything. So I shall wish everybody a beautiful day and stay safe. Goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Kelvin. Thank you, everyone.